Let's welcome Bob Salvatore back to Dragon Talk.
Yay, Bob!
But you guys really pick up when the recording starts.
They do. We get up there. Our energy is up there.
What friend of the pod?
Friend of the pod. Yeah. What's this, like 10 times maybe?
I mean,
8 times?
Could be.
It's up there. It's up there.
Yeah.
We owe you a jacket. We owe Wolfgang Bauer a jacket.
Oh, do you have swag? I want swag. I like swag.
It's been about 8 years in the making, but if we keep talking about it, it will happen.
Oh,
We're gonna get a jacket.
Like a nice members only jacket.
Members only jacket.
That's how I picture it in my mind. Like a cool members only jacket. Like, hey.
Yeah.
Oh, you're in the Dragon Talk Friend of the Pod Club, huh?
Oh my gosh. Now we have to make that happen. Would you wear it, Bob, if we got it for you?
Of course.
Nice.
Aw, see, because you're a friend of the pod.
Yes, of course.
Thanks, Bob.
So excited to talk to you about, all the amazing things going on in your life, but definitely about Starlight Enclave, which is coming out very soon, right? If not already. Is it already out?
I think it's out.
Very soon. It's been up for 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
August
oh my gosh.
3rd?
Yeah, early August it came out.
Yes.
Yeah, it's been doing pretty well from what I hear and getting a lot of good feedback. So yeah, it's up and running.
You're being very modest.
Why?
Because it's like gotten a very good reception, very good reviews. Everything I've seen, 5 stars, lots of positivity.
It's all the Drizzt books track the same at this point. When the NetGalley heroes get them, they're always gonna give you a left-handed compliment and take off a star so that everyone thinks they're very serious. And so all the Drizzt books start off like around 3.5, 3.6, whatever, and then they all just build up to about 4.8. They're all about the same. It's consistent. It's a consistent series. Let me put it that way. That's how I feel. That makes me feel good about it.
Yeah. Right. You're hitting 300 for a lifetime average here, I think. I don't know if that metaphor tracks or not, but you know what I'm trying to say.
I knew baseball would find its way into this interview.
We had to talk about the Red Sox at some point.
Yes. Go ahead.
I went to Fenway the other night. First time in 2 years. 3 years. First time in 3 years. Fenway Park. I was there the other night. They won. Chris Sale was pitching. Good game.
Nice. Was that the Travis Shaw Grand Slam?
No. This was Friday night's game.
All right, sweet.
Gino got me tickets to Fenway. Took me to Fenway for Father's Day, but this was the game he took me. Right near our old seats in the pavilion section. It's great.
Oh, that is fantastic. It's
nice
to see some things coming back like that, right, Shayla?
I know, right?
I wouldn't go back.
No, you didn't. Did you not feel?
I was just
comfortable.
Like too many people. It just didn't. I'm not ready. I'm not ready for that. I had fun.
That's how I felt in airports. But thankfully, Greg gave me a heads up because we traveled for the first time, since all this began. And Greg said, just be careful. Like when you go to the airport, you're going to be around more people than you have been in a very long time. And it's going to be a little scary. And it was. I'm so glad he told me that.
Been weird. We were in California when COVID started. And we usually come home in May. And I told Diane, we got to get out of here before May 1st because they were saying they're going to reopen the airports on May 1st fully. That was kind of the day they were saying go. And so we got out early because I didn't want to go through a crowded airport. And we went to LAX the end of April last year.
Yeah.
And it was empty. And it was the creepiest damn thing you ever saw. I was like, whoa, no, this is something. It's like, I didn't want to get on the plane. I was like, whoa, this is just too creepy. Everything was wrong. Everything you expect at an airport was wrong. But then we flew again this year. We went back to California twice this year after we got our shots. And it picked up considerably. It was feeling more normal, but still not normal.
Yeah, it was definitely crowded when I went. And it's like this weird, most people are, still fully masked and like timid because it's probably their first time traveling too. And
you got to be masked by law.
Yeah, you would think, except for those that weren't. But let me tell you, if you want to feel safe on an airplane, you travel with Bart Carroll because he tells on everybody.
Oh,
He's
really?
like 17C, no mask. 13A, mask around the chin. Like
you're pretty safe on the planes, actually.
I did feel safe on the planes.
The airports you got to watch out for.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I was fine. I went to Disney in May. I was vaccinated, and this was before we found out that there was a new one growing,
right?
A new bad one growing.
Oh, right, yeah.
And now it's bad again.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming to our COVID talk. This was fun.
Yes.
And somehow you can tie this into D&D, Greg. I know you can pull
I was just
back.
about to, right? And so, I mean, a lot of people have taken D&D as a solace for not being able to travel and do all those things.
And
but a lot of
reading.
people are also reading a lot more, actual physical books. But I've heard a lot from people also who are getting more into Audible and having their books read to them. And I know, the works that you've been doing, Bob, a lot of people just love getting into those and not thinking about COVID for a little bit of time. Have you experienced that?
Oh yeah, especially with Audible. You mentioned Audible.
Yeah.
I have a huge backlist, obviously, right?
Like we all do.
So every quarter I get reports on the books and how they're doing sales. And every other quarter, the Audible component is attached. And over the last couple of years, the Audible component has grown like exponentially. The books have gone down and the Audible have gone way up. It's crazy.
Wow.
Now, I don't know the actual numbers or anything, but let's just say I think Audible extended a lot of the career for a lot of authors, or just really helped a lot of authors, especially with backlists, because people love, especially with series. If you got a whole books to get through one series, doing it with Audible is a lot, especially if you already read them and you want to go back and kind of refresh. Audio is the easiest way to do that. And Victor Bavine is just such a great reader anyway, the guy that does all the Drizzt books. He's fantastic. So yeah, Audible's been very good to me. I even did an exclusive story for them, a Drizzt story called One-Eyed Jacks, where they hired me directly to do the story. Wizards gave their blessing. And I did just a one-off novella, basically, that Audible put out there as kind of a tease to get people into the Drizzt series. And it's been great.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you said backlist, my mind immediately went to like, all of the books that you haven't read yet. But you meant a very different term, backlist, which is all the books that you have written in the past.
I meant the books like The Crystal Shard that came out 33 years ago and is still selling, which makes me very happy.
Well, I have a big substantial backlist, too, of books that I have not yet read.
That's backlog.
I'm still getting to.
That's a backlog, yeah.
That's a backlog.
That's a backlog.
You know where I went with that?
Where?
I shouldn't even say it. When Bob's like, I got a really big backlist. And I just went like, Bobby's got backlist. Sorry. It was there. It was in my... I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Bob.
20 plus years and she hasn't grown up at all.
No.
She's still that 7-year-old.
She's still that wise-ass 7-year-old.
Speaking of books, Bob.
Shelley owes me. I just want to go on record with this. I taught her how to do a book set.
I thought of that the other day, actually.
Did you? That was so much fun.
I did. Do you know that, Greg?
Shelley was
I did a book
bundle
signing
of nerves. And I was like, Shelley, just sit and be you. Have fun. And
everybody thought I was your handler. They were just like, like handing me like your book or what? Like they were just like, can he write it to Janine? I'm like, oh, I actually have something for you.
True. Wait, so set the scene. Where was this?
This was at Book Expo. Book Expo America in New York City.
And Shelley had out her teenage sorceress book there. And we did our first signing.
We had
she did her first signing. It was like my 9,393,842nd, I think.
Yeah.
And Shelley was all
gracious.
nervous and we had a blast.
How nice. You were so nice. And even though that was your 300,000,000 signing, like you still treat everyone like it's your first. Like you're so nice to everyone. And if I ever get to be a real author like you, I want to be like you. Greg, when we sign our Dragon Talk books.
Yes, absolutely.
We got to be like Bob.
When you grow up.
We're going to be you.
You're so nice. It's even if it's like 4 hours into it, that 400th fan in line is like the first fan in line. You talk to everybody. Everybody. Sure. They all get the same treatment. I've been to book signings with authors that did not treat people that way, and they had half as many people in line, and it has really tarnished how I feel about them as authors.
Keep in mind, and this is me too, and this is the truth. When I was in high school, I was the shyest kid in my school. Like, I never asked anyone out for a date or anything like that. I was the guy hiding in the corner, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I had to break that. And I broke it when I got to college, when I realized that, well, it just got really loud. Ooh, something just got really loud. I had to break that when I got to college, when I realized that my life was going by and I wasn't in it.
Mm.
Oh.
And now it got really soft. Like, what's
We hear
weird? You guys
just
doing
fine.
something there?
I
But
blame
anyway, so when I got out, first time when I started traveling, going to conventions and stuff, it was terrifying. But I overcame it. I forced myself to just come out of the shell and have some fun with it, because there's one of the Drizzt essays. He says, "I'm free because I know I'm going to die," and that's not morbid. It's the truth. You when you realize that, do what you can do when you can do it, because there's no mulligans here. And I kind of rode that through the conventions and the book signings, and just forced myself to go out there and have a good time. It's a heck of a lot better time if you're not nervous. It's a heck of a lot better time if you're engaging in people. First of all, the people that come to book signings, generally speaking, are really interesting people that got their own stories to tell.
Yeah.
And, second of all, just sitting there like, isn't any fun. But I think one of the problems when you're talking about authors that don't talk at book signings, a lot of authors are very introverted.
I know.
I met one very famous author. I won't use the name. And we're on a panel together, and I had a really terrible experience. And then a few years later, one of an editor friend who knew him and knew me said, I gotta introduce you to this guy. You guys are gonna get along great. And I'm like, I already met him and I didn't get along with him at all. And he said, where'd you meet him? And I said, it was I told him the convention. He goes, yeah, he's got social anxiety disorder. So as soon as he went out in public, he would melt and he would be a completely different person. Then I got to meet him privately, and he's the nicest guy in the world. He was awesome. And so I think that's part of the problem with a lot of authors, because a lot of authors, they live in their minds as much as they live in the world. That's the job.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're comfortable with the characters that they've created and the worlds they've created. This author I'm thinking of, though, she is not an introvert, because she writes a lot of nonfiction and memoir type books. And so she's very, that does not match her personality.
Shelley, I think you're starting a turf war here. I think you're going to start snapping.
It was just I was so excited to meet her, and then she was just so rude.
Do you know who should write a book? All of the media escorts from like 1980 to 2000, and when it was, because at that point it was more authors. Now it's more celebrities who do the big tours, who have their own entourage, right?
Right.
But back then it was all the authors going on tour, and the stories the media escorts tell you are really great.
Did you get some juicy stories when they were?
Oh, absolutely. Made me look at many authors in a very different way. Not good.
Yeah.
Yeah, most of them not good, probably.
Not good.
Yeah, right.
And then saying, geez, what do they say about me behind my back? And then saying, I don't care.
Well, going back to what you said about Drizzt and that that you're going to die, and that can be a very morbid thought in one sense, but a very freeing thought. Like, I think that is something that we as a society kind of lost, right? Like that idea that you can't change the past, right? You can't constantly fixate on things that have happened, even, yesterday or a week ago. Like, you're never going. The more you worry about it, the more you get upset about it. You're never going to be able to change it. And so, having that kind of forward moving momentum, even in this time when we've been dealing with all the political upheaval as well as this COVID quarantine and all that type of stuff, I really gravitate towards stories that are about how are we going to go forward here? And I mean that's been Drizzt to a T throughout this entire series. That's been
the whole Dark Elf series. That's why it's still going.
Yeah.
The Drizzt books, I see the world very differently now than I did when I started writing the character, because I was 29 years old.
Yeah.
Actually, when I started writing the character, I was 28 years old when I first wrote Drizzt. And I'm old now. So I think I see the world very differently. And that's how come I'm able to continue to keep the characters moving along, because I've always said, I write because it helps me make sense of the world. So I put the characters out there and I beat the crap out of them, put them under tremendous pressure. And that really reveals someone's character. And that's how I get my answers to the world.
Yeah, it's interesting, that how long you have been writing these books. And like you're saying, you were a different person then. You've been many different people in the past 30 years or so since writing these books. It's an interesting, like a retrospective of you and your life and your reflections. And I guess I never thought of it that way as well, but it really does. Obviously, you're putting you into these books as well. So it's a cool way to go back and look at different places you were in your life.
Do you know when I realized it? When they were doing the collected stories.
Oh,
all the short stories I had done in the various Realms anthologies, Dragon Magazine, whatever, and they wanted to put them all together, but they wanted me to go back and kind of write a page what I was thinking when I did it. So I had to read them all again. And when I was reading them, it was like looking through a photo album. It was amazing because I immediately knew, I wrote that in my walk-in closet in our first house on Haynes Court. And I knew exactly, it brought me right back to that time, how old the kids were, what we were doing, what our life was like. And it was like looking at a photo album. And that's when I realized, wow, this is like my journey. This is kind of cool.
That is really cool. And it's cool that you've been writing this character for that long. Like, what is your relationship with Drizzt now? Like, how do you see this character? How do you feel towards this character? And has that relationship changed? Like, is Drizzt like a child to you, like one of your children?
No.
Or is it like a peer? Is it he aspirational? Who is he?
Drizzt is aspirational. He's who I wish I had the courage to be. Because he's going to do what he thinks is right, and he's not going to back down from it, no matter what. I think that's pretty cool.
That is really cool. Kind of like our D&D characters in a way. I mean, mine are always aspirational. They're always better than me, the real me. I hope.
Are they always better than
Drunky Two Shoes maybe is like equal to me.
Drunky Two Shoes.
She's a tabaxi. We have a lot in common.
Okay.
Because we both wear two shoes at the same time.
That's the one thing that you have in common, and you like to drink wine. What is Drizzt's stage in his journey now? I mean, I know a little bit about what's going on in Starlight Enclave, but talk a little bit for folks who haven't been reading up all of the back of the cover books, as well as being able to zip through it in the first couple of weeks now that it's been out.
He's at the point now where he's moved from somebody who escaped, got away, made his friends, made his home, made his family. And now his family's come true. He's got a daughter and he's married, very happily married. He's living the dream, right? And now all of that has come full circle where he's gotten his freedom emotionally and everything else from his past and told Loth where to get off years ago. But now, because of all of that, the bigger crisis that's happening in Menzoberranzan is trying to draw him back in, where there's going to be a civil war. There's a fight coming between the Lothian Drow and the Drow who are ex-Lothian for control of that city. And Drizzt has to play a part of it, but playing a part of it means he's risking everything because, they might be going down there with all the righteous fury that they have, but they're the underdogs. They're fighting a demon who's going to supply their enemies. And, for him, is it worth the fight? Because the other thing that's happened with him is through his training with the monks and everything, he's learned more about what the universe is to him. He's coming to terms the meaning of his life is. And with that introspection, it's hard enough to hold on to giving a damn about the mortal things. But then add on top of that the things he does give a damn about, his wife, his daughter, his friends, will all be lost to him if he goes down there and loses. So on the one hand, he's got nothing to lose because he's at peace with who he is and what he's done. And on the other hand, he's got more to lose than he ever has because of the people around him. So that's a tough place. And that's his whole journey in Starlight Enclave. His whole journey is trying to figure out, what's my role? Who am I going to be in this upcoming event?
I love that. I love how
which is about, it's about, I would say it's not quite a half of the book. That's about a third of the book. The main part of the book doesn't even involve him at this point.
Ooh, okay, cool. Yeah, well, what I was going to say was that I love that trend in, and maybe it's just because I'm noticing it more now as a father and as having a family that is super important to me. So much of our fantasy used to be that hero's journey of being like this young, plucky adolescent, and you're destined to do great things, and you reject the call, but then you take up the call, and all that Joseph Campbell stuff. But I love that fantasy now is delving into that, like, well, do I have to? Like, what? It's so much more of a risk losing the normalcy of life to put yourself out there, and how there's nobility in that.
Well, do you see why it's like that now? When I started writing, 1987, 88, that era.
Yeah.
If I had a book signing, I've told you this before, if there were 30 people there, it was 26 high school boys and the 4 moms who drove them.
Yeah.
That was basically who was playing D&D, high school, college, mostly boys back then. But that's expanded. But on top of that, they've all grown up.
Yeah.
And so they're going through the same type of journey as the rest of us as you grow up. Like I said, I was a very different person when I started writing Drizzt than who I am now. Not fundamentally and ethically and all of that, but in terms of how I view the external information coming into me. My perspective has changed.
Do you think history also played a part too? Like, I mean, I think in the 80s when you were writing this, there was still that, U.S. versus Russia Cold War thing was like very prevalent throughout almost all of literature and history, right?
Well, there's no doubt that the world's changed a lot.
Right, exactly.
One of my I don't have a lot of complaints at all about everything that's going on. I think this is a natural shudder that you have to go through. But one of the things that kind of my pet peeve is anybody who looks at the past, like the 1990s, the 1980s, the 1970s, and judges someone for something, some statement they made or something they did back then, that now wouldn't be acceptable. But back then was just life. And without understanding the context of history, right? I mean, I can appreciate that George Washington did some pretty crappy things, okay? Now, I grew up being taught he had wooden teeth and never told a lie when he said he cut down the cherry tree. Then you find out one of his 3 sets of dentures was teeth pulled from the mouth of a slave. Oh. So even in context, that's pretty crappy, right? But you can appreciate that the world was so different. That's why I watch Ken Burns documentaries. Like you watch Vietnam. Mm-hmm. I just started watching it again last night because it's like my favorite Ken Burns documentary. And it's all about what happened in Vietnam before we got there. And you can see how different the world is now. And that's why I'm an optimist, though, because for all the garbage, for all the fighting, the internet trolling, the social media causing mental illness in half the country, and it really does. For all this with your phone all day long, that's driving people insane. We're better people now than we were when I was a kid. It's a better world now than when I was a kid.
Yeah,
it really is. I had a neighbor who used to beat the crap out of his daughter every morning before school. And she'd come, I'd be waiting for us so we could walk to school together. And she'd come out with belt buckle marks on her. And everybody knew it. And the cops knew it. Nobody cared.
This doesn't happen anymore.
It was brutal. I had guys who used to pull shotguns on us and shoot at us.
Yeah, I can't do that.
I had a friend blown off his bike with rock salt from a shotgun. Right down the end of the street. The bike kept going. It was really weird. I'm serious. It was a different world. When I first started writing, one of my dreams was to write a book about, like, one of my favorite TV shows, The Waltons. Because The Waltons shows me a world that was very different than my world and shows it to me accurately. Right? Not the corny stuff of Goodnight, Mary Ellen or whatever her name was, right? Not that stuff. But the day-to-day living of that was very different than what I experienced when I was growing up. And I love that because the show was informing me at the same time it was entertaining. And I said, I would love to write a book about my neighborhood and the things we used to do. But I never wrote it because I always figured, well, everybody's life is like this. But now it's so different for a kid growing up. Maybe I'll do it someday. I don't know.
Maybe parts of that do work their way.
I should probably
into
wait till my friends die so they can't sue me. I have to outlive them to write the book.
Well, the funny thing about what you're saying there is that sounds a little bit like why people enjoy fantasy to a certain extent, right? And especially back then, right? There was this idea of it being a time that you couldn't experience now, right? Like I wouldn't say it was a meritocracy necessarily in most fantasy novels, but there was that idea that you could do anything, right? And that you could be anything that you wanted to be, given the awful circumstances of the world in that which you are living. And I think that is as an adolescent, definitely when I was growing up, like that was something that was really important to me, and I think that idea about this optimism is a little bit like what fantasy's through line has been for these decades.
Oh, absolutely. One of the quotes that when I do e-signings, people ask me to put a quote in the book sometimes. And one of my favorite quotes is, "No, I would not want to live in a world without dragons, because that is a world without magic. And that is a world without mystery. And that is a world without faith." And there is something to the idea that one person can change the world that is very appealing, especially in a world of 8 billion people now, and, massive bureaucracies for governments, and where you're helpless. If you get something wrong on your taxes, you're helpless. You're helpless. When you go to the DMV or the RMV or whatever you call it in your state, and you got to wait in line for 4 hours, right? You're helpless. Right. And I got my dog in my mouth here. My little dog is going crazy. I got a dog here.
I feel like that's a euphemism or something. Like, I got my dog in my mouth. Like a frog in your throat or something.
Dexter, a little blind Dexter. 8 pounds of fighting fury. Yeah, he's a rescue. And they have the flight or fight. He doesn't have flight. He's blind. Really? He fights.
He just fights.
He always gives you a little growl and it's coming. So move, because if you don't,
it gives you the warning.
Teeth are little, but they hurt.
And he gets in your mouth.
What was I? I completely forgot what I was talking about. Probably wasn't important anyway. So there you
go. Which is about the state of the world and the optimism of fantasy.
No, I'm an optimist. I think the arc of history bends toward justice and all of that, and I think we're a better country than we were. I think we're a better world than we were. I'm very worried right now, because right now you have the world we are in World War III right now, and nobody's figured it out yet. And it's a war between authoritarian government and liberal democratic government.
Yeah.
And I don't know who's going to win, but I do know that the open societies are at a tremendous disadvantage when the bad guys can use social media to make people crazy.
Right. I think that's a big reason why fantasy, but also Dungeons and Dragons has been more popular the last few years, is because it gave some people some agency. You were talking about being helpless and not being able to change what was happening. I think just being able to slay the evil dragon or topple a tyrant in a fantasy realm was very attractive to people over the last administration, I'll say.
Yeah, and you mentioned the concept of one person being able to change the world. And that's one thing that, with D&D, it kind of sets you up to be that person. Like you go into every game, every adventure, every story, believing like you're the hero here. Like you have that power to do that. And I think it's very empowering.
It's every young adult's conquering hero dream come true. The conquering hero, I'll show them, I'll make things right. And I got into fantasy because when I was in college as a math major, and I opened up The Hobbit, the Peter Beagle introduction, Peter S. Beagle, The Last Unicorn, just brilliant. I met him actually a few years ago. He was the nicest guy on the planet. It was you're always afraid to meet someone you've been in awe of for a long time because maybe he's a jerk, right? Oh no, they were going on this tour for The Last Unicorn, and they were doing it in movie theaters. And they came to my hometown, so a friend and I went down there, and we were like the last people in line. It was like 11 o'clock. Is that Quinn?
Yeah, he actually wanted to talk to you, and I don't want to interrupt your story. He said you're way too big. Can you show him?
And so the Peter Beagle intro to The Lord of the Rings talked about escapism is not a bad word.
Yeah.
And it just hooked me. And then, of course, I started reading The Hobbit, and that was it. My
Right.
life was changed. But yeah, no, I think that's first of all, I think a lot of people have a lot more time on their hands.
That's true.
And second of all, you burn out if you're just going to listen to the volume all day long of the screaming and the shouting and it's just ridiculous. So you kind of burn out and you go away. You escape. You go away to a different world, and a world where a single person can make a difference. It's a good feeling.
And it could be you.
A single
remember
person
the
like
movie
Quinn,
Dragon
perhaps.
Slayer?
Perhaps Quinn will slay some dragons.
Hang on. Do you recognize? You might not even remember this.
Yeah, that's the book that Diane and I sent. Quinn.
Yes, he remembers.
Aww.
And he often likes to read your.
Hi, Quinn.
He said hello.
Oh, yeah, you got your headphones on. He can't hear me. Duh.
Your inscription, which says that he's supposed to listen to me. Always listen to your mom and grandma. It says right here. And if you ever make your mom mad, give her a ring ding.
That was the thing for you, right?
Oh, yes. And I
yes.
cannot tell you how many ring dings were consumed on my visit home the last week.
Are they still doing them? Can't get them around here, even in New England anymore.
I had them.
Ring dings.
And
that was
butterscotch
that was
crimpets.
my weakness as a kid, too.
Yep. Remember they used to just be in your lunch? Oh, my mom used to always put them in my lunch.
Yeah.
I used to love those tasty cake.
It's like whenever someone says to me, I don't want to take the vaccine. I don't know what's in it. I said, do you eat ring dings? You don't know what's in them either.
Right.
It's something in the water that makes ring dings taste the way they taste because you can't make them anywhere but there.
Yeah. It's like bagels.
It's like the New York
Oh, yeah.
bagels. Yeah.
And New York pizza.
Anyway.
So how can people take what we're talking about here and strive to be like Drizzt and the heroes in the books?
Keep pushing forward.
Yeah,
How?
right. I mean,
how
like
do
you said,
do
like,
that?
things are getting better, but like I think we might have learned maybe that it isn't just one person anymore. It's actually banding together, like creating your own companions of the hall.
You don't want me giving life advice.
We do.
Yeah, we do.
We do.
You know, the best advice I can give anyone is shut off cable news and use social media sparingly. And remember that the person you're blowing up on social media probably is a decent person who's just having a bad day, or it's somebody who's actually getting a thrill out of making you angry, as opposed to trying to argue in good faith, because nobody does that on social media. And I say that as someone who sometimes argues on social media. I actually argue in good faith, which is why I probably lose all my arguments. But, to me, it's like it really scares me to go like for a walk and to see people like at the kids' playground with their kids who are just on their phones. And it really scares me because not because they're doing something dastardly, but because they're missing the best parts of their life. I remember when my kids were little and, we'd go outside and make those Estes rockets and let them fly, or building the little soapbox derby cars, or teaching them how to play sports, playing street hockey with them in the driveway. And all of those, now it's like I've got to go on, my phone goes ding and I got to pick it up. And shut the notifications off the phone. I mean, that's my best advice to anyone. Is just control it. Look at your usage time on social media and your phone, and go from 23 hours a day to under 2, and you'll be a happier person, I think.
I think you got a good point there. I mean, I think for me, social media takes over the cable news. Honestly, that's where I get my news and my, it's like reading the magazine or the newspaper for me. The amount of time that people spent doing that, like that is the way to do it. But I think the optimal thing that you said there was control it, right? Don't let it, choose to make those updates a part of your life, but don't have it just be anytime something, get that Pavlovian response of, damn, let me. The
dopamine hits that you're going to get fighting on a message board are not going to make you a happy person.
Right.
And
agreed.
Sometimes just step back. You get no do-overs. If you spent 5,000 hours this year wasting your time on arguing about stuff with people who don't care what you have to say because they've already made their mind up, then where are you you just lost 5,000 hours of your life. And, I don't want to be up on the pedestal here. So let's change the subject because, this is just stuff that I do for me.
Right.
But you asked, so I answered. There you go.
Well, I'm loving the idea of
Shelley's known me long enough not to take anything I say seriously anyway.
Not true. You gave Quinn great advice in that book. I'm telling you.
You
Life
paid me
lessons.
for that.
Listen to mom. That's good advice for anybody. All right. So what was it like, writing a scene in this book and in Starlight Enclave in which, actually, I don't know if this is the actual thing because I haven't been able to read it yet. But what was it like having characters that were similar to Drizzt but didn't have that control of Lolth in their history and all their time?
I've been ready to write this book for 25 years. I mean, this is one of the things that I got to tell you about the book is that the idea that we're making some big change here. I laugh at people who keep saying that to me because where have you been? Mm. Drizzt wasn't unique because he was the good one. Drizzt was unique because he escaped. Even in the earliest books, Virna, Zaknafein, Jarlaxle, they don't like Lolth. I mean, Zaknafein's biggest kicks are getting rid of the zealots who control them for Lolth. Yeah. So to me, there was always two things that had to be done to clarify that as we've gone forward. And first was show more of that undercurrent of Drizzism. I'll call it that, okay? The idea that this is wrong and we shouldn't be doing this in the city, which is what I did in the last trilogy, the Generations trilogy, when I went back. The story I wanted to tell for many years. I've been saying this for 20 years. I want to tell the story of Zaknafein and Jarlaxle before Drizzt was born even, when they were friends in Menzoberranzan. And part of that story was going to be showing that Drizzt didn't come about in a vacuum, that there were dozens and dozens and scores of drow, hundreds, thousands who hate Lolth, hate their society and what their society is. But what are you going to do? She's a tyrant and you're surrounded by things that want to eat you. And if you leave this cavern, you're dead. And if you try to do anything against her in this cavern, you're going to be sent to the abyss for retraining, probably as a drider, right?
Yeah.
What are you going to do? I mean, think about the world's worst dictators, okay? Our world's worst dictators and how they put a control. They put walls around their people, right? They wall their country in. And think about how they break that society, right? Think about how Hitler broke that German society. Decent, democratic-minded people were just broken and twisted into something monstrous through the 1930s. Well, now imagine that when you're actually in a place that you don't even need walls because you can't leave. There's nowhere to go. And even if you get where you think you want to go, they're going to hate you anyway. Right?
Yeah.
And it's not a person who's going to hand it down to his son or daughter to take over the country and be a miserable tyrant jerk. It's a demon who's immortal, who's going to be there the whole time, digging that little hole a little deeper and pulling you down it with her. And the natural thing for me is that in the heart and soul of everybody in that place, there is a time when they're saying, this is wrong. And some of them actually hold on to that through the indoctrination and the beating, but it'll be a small percentage. Drizzt was one of them. And he had the courage to leave. I'm sure others have too, and they've probably died, or they've just gone off into oblivion. But Drizzt was different because Lolth kept going back after him. So he became kind of a hero to all those people like Jarlaxle, even Kromf, Banrai, who were saying, damn it, he did it. Maybe there is more. And I've been building up to that forever. When Jarlaxle took over Luskan, the people of Luskan know that the drow are controlling their city, and they're really cool with that because they're a hell of a lot better than the pirates who were controlling that city. The High Captain pirates were miserable, murdering thieves. Jarlaxle's not running it like that. Now, maybe he's doing this for selfish reasons because Jarlaxle loves being revered, but he's doing good by them. And he's not controlling them because he knows you don't have to control them. Because he knows that what he's trying to build is what they're going to want him to build. And so that was the first thing. The second thing I had was show all those other drow. The second thing I wanted to do was the idea of unreliable narrator, especially when you're talking about history. So we have the formal history of the drow, but look at our own world, right? We're still finding out we were wrong about things 1,000 years ago when we had all the writing that we can read and everything else. We're still trying to figure out what really happened 2,000 years ago in the Middle East, right? That's the search for the Ark of the Covenant or Noah's Ark, or what was Jesus real? Was there a real person named this? Was there? And the farther back you go in time, the less you know, the more we tried to piece together and we don't know. They're even finding now beginnings of human civilization thousands of years older than they thought humans were around. And this is the nature of learning. Well, we have all these sophisticated tools that can date things. What do you think a world looks like where, you're trying to go back 3, 4, 5,000 years in time, and they don't really know what happened back then. So what I did is, and I thought this was really it's one of my favorite things in the books. When Quenthel Banray was taking over for Ivanel, the matron mother Banray, and Triel, when Triel died and all that, and Quenthel was kind of becoming the matron mother of the city. Mm-hmm. Nobody thought she could handle it because she just wasn't that strong. She wasn't that bright. She wasn't like the obvious choice, but it was her turn. So what they did is they used the mind flayer and that severed head of Ivanel, and the mind flayer went in there and collected all the synapses and the current connections in the brain of matron mother Banray, and then gave them to Quenthel. And so it's not like Quenthel's reading a book about their matron mother. It's like if Ivanel the Eternal had a lover, Quenthel remembers it as if that was her lover. She remembers it as if it was her own experiences. So it's much more intimate. It's much more personal. It's much more clear because she's not getting it through a translator.
Right.
And at the same time they did that, when Minolan Faye became pregnant with Gromp's daughter, Loth showed up at the Festival of the Founding and had the Illithid do the same thing to the Ivanel, the namesake of Ivanel the Eternal, in utero. So this kid's born with full consciousness and the memories of a 2,000-year-old matron mother Banray. And so all of this happens, and now you have Quenthel and Ivanel trying to figure out where they fit in and what they should do, and they know things aren't right and something's wrong. And lo and behold, here comes Camuriel, who's been talking with the Illithids, and he helps them go through the memories of Ivanel the Eternal. And what do they discover? They discovered, just by looking at her emotional responses to external stimuli, that the Ivanel the Eternal that went down to Menzoberranzan, that in the founding of Menzoberranzan, was not the same person she was 100 years later, 500 years later, 1,000 years later. And not the same person in terms of ethics and all of that, like we were just talking about, but she had been led down that rabbit hole by Loth, one handful of dirt at a time, to a darkness where things like, murdering people, drawing and quartering them, turning them into driders. No, that's just normal stuff. And, don't worry about the 500 dead bodies on the side of the road. That's just life. It happens all the time. We see that in our world.
Yeah.
We see it all the time. We see it with the kids who grow up in countries that are in war when they're kids, that they become so desensitized to violence and death that their entire outlook on the world is different. Well, that's what Loth did. And she did it over centuries. So now they've got these big revelations, and what they are told from the memories of Ivanel is that the drow went down there to get away from the kings and queens, the whims of war from the kings and queens on the surface, elf, dwarf, human, whatever. They were running away from that idea that one person could cause this great conflict and get everybody killed. In a way, Menzoberranzan was founded the way America was founded.
Right. Yeah.
It was founded
all those
not
parallels.
to be a theocracy. It was founded not to be an autocracy. It was founded to be a democracy, a liberal democracy. And Loth stole it. handful by handful, digging the hole, stole it from them, built her zealots, one after another, each generation worse than the one previous. She stole that democracy. Now, of course, the coup de grace in all of this is that at the end of the book where this is revealed, Jarlaxle looks at Camuriel and says, wait a minute, I'm confused here. The memories from matron mother Ivanel the Eternal Baenre were given to Quinthel and Ivanel. Yeah. By the Illithids. Yeah. Their memories of how Menzoberranzan was founded is very different than everything we learned when we were kids. Right. But they recovered those memories through you with the help of the Illithids. And Camuriel's like, yeah. And Jarlaxle's like, okay. Because now Jarlaxle, are these two unreliable narrators? Are they being led down the path by the Illithids for some grander scheme? I don't know. I haven't got there yet. So that's the second thing I had to do to the drow. And finally, the third thing I had to do with the drow, and this has been years coming. This idea that this is all of a sudden this new thing that we decided to do is baloney, because this was this. We were talking about this before I even began Generations trilogy. This is years in coming, is showing a drow society that never went with loaf, that never fell into this trap of this spider queen. And so I got to write pre-Renaissance Florence. And that's Caladay.
I love how you're bringing back the Italian comparison there too.
Well, I mean, the drow, Menzoberranzan was founded on the 5 families of New York. I've told you that before. Right. When I'm writing Caladay, I am thinking of, the world is, they're just kind of, there's an enlightenment that's just beginning and has been kind of growing in this place. And, but they're not like these, sappy kind. They play blood sports. They're really cool. I want to go there. My next D&D campaign's going there. That's it.
I love it. I love it. And I see so many parallels between what you were, describing about history being rewritten and portrayed in a different way. Even just, I know you didn't want to talk too much about social media and how to avoid it, but even that is filtering into your storytelling here and showing how, things can be manipulated.
We're seeing that every day in this.
Every day.
Yeah.
Every day. I mean, a lot of people get mad about it. I'm mad as hell about the changes. You know what I'm mad about? I'm mad that nobody taught me about Tulsa when I was in school. I'm mad that I was told George Washington had wooden teeth and never told a lie instead of being told the truth about these people that I'm supposed to learn from. I'm mad about not knowing about, what happened after in Reconstruction. That was like a 5-minute class after the Civil War. I'm mad about not being told the truth about who we are.
Yeah.
You can't fix it if you don't know it. Right. You can't make it better if you don't see its flaws.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so, that's my anger.
Does Drizzt have that anger?
No, because Drizzt saw the bad part. And now he doesn't even really know about the good part yet all that much. He's just trying to figure it out. He's hopeful.
He's an optimist.
He's an optimist. He's an eternal optimist. I'm going out in the Underdark and I'm going to survive. You got to be an optimist to have that attitude in life.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Well, I love all this, Bob. The storytelling that you've done has just continued to evolve and change. And I love that you early on in this interview, I was saying you have changed as a person and grown just, as history and everything has changed as well as Drizzt. And it's just really always enlightening talking to you. I feel like we're in pre-Renaissance Florence right now. Yeah. You're enlightening us.
You think so?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think novelists and storytellers have a really important part to play in our world. And I don't know if we necessarily recognize that, at least for me. Maybe I'm just talking about me because I have, shelves of books behind me and they shaped my thoughts and my thinking.
See,
and
I have a
slightly
different opinion. as far as the storytelling goes. What I've learned from being a writer is that if 100 people read your books, they're going to get 100 different things from them. And probably 99 or 97 of them were things you didn't know were in there. Because the reader brings as much to the story as the writer does. And I'm okay with that. I think it's great. So to me, the way I look at readers is like they're on this road of adventure beside me. It really feels like that. And you know, as far as like changing the world, I think anyone who thinks they're going to change the world by writing a book is the only people I've ever seen who have made significant impact on the world writing books has always been in the wrong direction. Right. But
you got your Necronomicon and your
I was thinking Mein Kampf, but yeah, you know,
I don't know. You can say like books can't change the world,
but they can change pieces of the world.
They can change a person's world, which I know your books have absolutely done.
And I wear it as armor. I get 20 a week of people who tell me that the impact that the books have had on their life.
Yeah.
And it still feels very surreal to me every time I hear this. It's like, how can that be? You know, but I get 20 a week and I've been getting 20 a week for 30 years.
Yeah.
It's really a strange feeling to know that your work is affecting people, even if it's just to the point of you gave me something to distract me from the war zone when I was overseas, right? Or I had a really down time in my life and I didn't have any friends in high school and these books became my friends. The people in these books became my friends. Or I had to make a big decision in my life. I've heard this repeatedly from people. And Drizzt gave me the courage to make it. Well, no, you had the courage to make it. He just told you had the courage to make it. But that feels great. And it also is humbling because it's kind of scary. Because here people are listening to me and taking what I say seriously. What are you, nuts? But you hear that all, and I mean, writers hear this, and it is inspiring. It's humbling, and it's such a privilege to be allowed into someone's life, even if it's for this much, that your work is allowed into someone else's life. That's a privilege. I take it very seriously. I take it, and I'm try to be very careful about what I'm putting in there for that reason. Like to me, it's like one guy was mad at me. I'll never forget it. He was really mad at me because my books hadn't grown up with the audience. He wanted boobies, or he wanted more explicit sex and violence in the books. And I said to him, I go, when I started writing these books, most of the people reading them were teenagers or tweens. And I want any mother now to know that if they pick up a Drizzt book, they're safe. Their kid's safe if their kid picks up a Drizzt book. A 10-year-old can read a Drizzt book and it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
So I take it seriously. I have a lot of fun with it, but I take it seriously.
That's good. You're still having fun with it. That's what's important.
I am still having. I don't know how many more things I got to say though.
No, really you keep saying that, but I'm just.
No, you know.
I don't know.
I thought Hero was the last Drizzt book because Wizards had ended their publishing program, and I would have been okay if Hero was the last Drizzt book because he told Loth, I'm not going to do it because kids might watch this. But he gave Loth the finger, basically.
Yeah.
I would have been okay with that. That would have been an okay ending for me, and. There were a couple more things I still wanted to do, but okay. But, I don't know how many more. I really don't know how many more. The publishing industry has changed so much in the last couple of years. It's such a different animal out there. I don't know. I know I got two more. One of them's at the publisher now. I got to start the next one in a couple of months here.
I got an idea.
I know I got two more coming.
You should write a radio screenplay that Audible will produce, and me and Shelley will be the voices. Done.
I do really good voices.
That'll pay the bills.
Thanks so much, Bob. You always make us feel so good, even with a throwaway joke like that.
That wasn't a throwaway joke,
throwaway.
That's the truth. It'll pay no bills whatsoever.
No bill. Maybe our like internet bill.
Our drinking tab, maybe that
Definitely
might
not
cover
that.
that. I'm not sure.
Definitely not.
Well, I think your books have grown up along with the audience, just not quite in the way that audience member was talking about. I think they have, changed and morphed, as we've been saying, with history, with everything that's going on. And I just love that you're continuing to tell the story that you latched onto, back in 1988, and is continuing to reinvent and
Yes.
and entertain folks throughout all this.
It's funny to me because there was an article a few years ago that was talking about racism and fantasy and all this stuff, and they kind of took some shots at me, and I was like, but I was talking about it, and I felt really kind of bad, And I was on the phone with an old editor, on Zoom call actually, with an old editor who had a project that he's working on, and asked me if I'd be interested. And then we were just catching up because I hadn't talked to this guy in like several years. We used to be very tight when I was with his publisher. Now he's got his own publishing company. And he said to me, he goes, what amazes me is that you've been quietly writing some of the most progressive books for 33 years. Because he says, when I go back and I look at the Drizzt books and I compare it to the stuff that was out there, the themes you were touching on are all the themes that we're seeing now. I said, thank you.
Thank you for being a good
Thank
reader.
my
Yeah,
dad.
thanks for
He's the one
noticing.
he's the one that gave this to me.
Oh, that's amazing. And I think you're right, and, it's continuing to tell more and more and interesting stories, and I'm here for it. And I got to get to my backlog so that I can finally get up to speed with what's happening. But you mentioned, being 10 years old, and my daughter is 10, and she's a avid reader. And I've been meaning to be like, I've said it a couple times, but I'm going to more distinctly point it out, being like, I have your books on my shelf here. Like, you should start with Crystal Shard, get into it and see what you think about reading some of Bob's books.
I had the coolest experience this year. We went out to California and picked up my 11-year-old and 5-year-old grandson and took them back with us for a week. And then Brian and his wife flew out to stay with us for a week, and then they all went back home. And when we got on the plane, my 11-year-old grandson was, I'm not going to say his name because he's a private kid, was reading, what book was he on? He was reading Sojourn. I think he was on Sojourn. He just started Sojourn. By the time he left here, he had read Sojourn, the Icewind Dale Trilogy, and was finishing up the Legacy of the Drow Quartet.
Oh,
he was here
God.
He was here for like 11 days. And he went through like 8 books.
Oh my God.
That felt awesome.
Yeah, because then does
Because he was
he want to
looking at me
talk
like,
to you about
wrote
him?
these? My grandson. How cool is that? Now
But
I feel like
he didn't know you wrote those?
no, he always knew I had written the books, and he's a really good reader. But Brian had held off giving him the books until he was 11. They wanted to make sure he was ready for him. So he did like Harry Potter.
Yeah.
He did the whole progression. Then after Harry Potter, and he was doing a lot of the Riordan books, the Rick Riordan books, which I think he read them all. And it just, as a grandfather, it was like, because I remember when I first wrote that first book, I wasn't trying to be published. I just wanted something that one of my kids, if I ever had kids, would give to one of my grandkids and say, you want to know more about your grandfather?
Stop
and I
it.
had that experience this year.
So does he talk to you about the books after? Is he like,
Oh God, no.
he just reads them, kind of gives you a little side eye?
He reads them and talks to his dad and my wife about them, but he doesn't talk
to you about them?
No.
I wonder what I'd be in, because you know how we were talking about reading is subjective, and depending on you as a person, you can pick up on different themes and it can mean different things. I would be very curious to hear like what a 10 or an 11-year-old picks up from some of those earlier books, especially given what world they live in now.
I hear that all the time from PMs and emails and all of that. But he's really enjoying them, and that makes me very happy.
Well, maybe he'll write you a Amazon review or something.
Oh, God, I'll beat the tar out of him.
Well, I mean, the really amazing thing is what if he's a reader now, there's a good chance he might be a writer as well.
I could
it's in the
see
genes.
that, yeah.
So that'd be really amazing too, that you're inspiring
one of my
storytellers.
best friends, his son wrote me a letter, a fan letter, when his son was like 12.
Oh,
And he wrote me a fan letter and said, Dear Mr. Salvatore, and it was him and his friend that wrote the letter. You really shouldn't have killed Chewbacca. I was very mad at you. I don't know that I want to come swimming at your pool anymore.
Whoa, he must have been really mad.
He was pissed.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
I'm going
That's so
to.
great.
I'm going to come swim in your pool, but just know that I'm very angry when I'm in there.
Yes. Mrs. Salvatore has to bring me the Kool-Aid.
Every
You stay in
cannonball
the
is
house.
like, for Chewbacca! And
She's a
splashes
Disney
everywhere.
princess now. It's all good.
Oh my God.
That's all right. I hear that there's something else that Star Wars fans are mad at now, so I think you're in the clear.
Maybe he'll take a reprieve.
Yeah, I think Troy Denning took a lot of the heat off of me when he went in there and did some killing. Thanks, Troy.
Yeah. You got this, Troy.
I knew I liked him.
Yeah.
Well, as always, it's amazing checking in with you and hearing about your process and what's happening with Drizzt. I hope people have already enjoyed Starlight Enclave, but if not, grab it, get it on Audible. We know everyone loves hearing
read
it
to.
portrayed in that way. So give a listen and see.
Still
what's
got some
happening.
copies if you want a signed copy at rasalvastore.com.
Yeah, and I know you don't want people to be.
joke.
It
It's
is.
the best.
And it was a mom joke, if I remember correctly.
No. I came up with that.
Oh, I thought Diane came up with
I
that.
know. I came up with that. Gino spit his Coke out. Diane went, "Oh my God!" And
That's
then
how
she
you
used
know. That's how you know it's good.
That's how you know it's good.
it. No, she didn't say, "Oh my God."
No, that
God.
you got to do the eye roll. Oh my God.
Oh yeah.
I'll
Her
go
eyes-
register
After she
it
picked her
now.
eyes off the floor, put them back in. She went, maybe I'll use them.
I mean,
that's
at least it's
awesome.
copyrightable, right? No one else can use that. That's for sure.
Hey, e-signing is copyrighted. I own the copyright on the term e-signing.
Really?
Do you
Seriously.
really?
That's awesome. I didn't know that.
When my brother got sick and couldn't work, I started a little company called Seven Swords. We did a module for Wizards of the Coast called the Accursed Tower. And we did like the Quake ID Arena. Quake Arena game. We did the responses for the bad guys. So if you miss them, they'd taunt you. If you hit them, they'd laugh at you. But we had to come up with like 1,000 sayings for the bad guys. And we did other things like that. And I was looking for ways to just keep the company, but nobody was making any money, but just to make a little bit of income to keep it going because it was costing money to keep it going. People were all working. We had 7 people working.
Mhm.
I was just doing it for my brother because he couldn't go to work anymore. And I had this idea like, how about if I, this internet thing, suppose we said people, hey, I'll sign a book I'll put your name in it. What do you want? I'll sign your book. Happy birthday, Joe, right? Whatever. And so we copyrighted the term e-sign.
Wow.
And the only reason I copyrighted the term was because I had a feeling that if I didn't, one of these companies was going to, and then they were
Somebody
not going to
else
let
would.
authors use it. So dear authors, feel free to use it. I don't care.
Nice.
I only did it to bury it.
Well, good for you. Then go to rasalvastore.com, get your e-signing, and where else can people, find out, news about what's going on in your world, Bob?
Well, R.A. Salvatore, R_A_ blue check mark Twitter. And capital R, capital A Salvatore on Facebook. Not the one with the little a, the one with the big A.
Big A.
On Facebook. But I don't whenever I have anything going on, I post it. But again, I try to resist social media now. I answer PMs. I'm way behind, but I'm getting through them. It's 2 hours a day to catch up now. I answer, I respond on Twitter. I try to keep that up. I've been doing it since I started and was answering letters. I try to keep that up. If somebody asks you something or somebody says hi, you should say hi back. That's just the way I was raised, and I kind of enjoy it anyway because writing it can be a lonely job. So, it's I'm out there. Not as much as I used to be, thank God. I broke the habit.
Well, now you're in control, which
I'm in
appreciate.
control. I am in control.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Bob.
You're the best.
Say hi to Diane and everybody for us.
I absolutely will. And hopefully as this next year, I'll be up there.
Yes.
Hopefully.
Let's go with
I
that.
can't wait to get back up there. I miss you guys. I haven't been up there and I went to that
We haven't
licensing
either.
meeting. I went to that licensing meeting 2 years ago. 2019, the licensing, and I had a blast. And then I came in the office for a day and I got to catch up with everybody, and it was like the best day ever. And you know, you don't know how much time you got. Time gets short. Don't take it for granted day by day. I'm not trying to be morbid, but I want to live my life, and part of living my life is getting back up there and you know, getting to hug your friends up at Wizards of the Coast. I miss you guys.
Miss you too.
You are always welcome.
Hopefully, this Delta thing will burn out. We'll get enough people vaccinated or whatever, or enough people will get through it, and this thing will burn out, and we can start living a in the community again. Because Zoom calls are okay. It's convenient when I'm doing Dragon Talk, but I'd rather be sitting in the studio with you guys.
Us too.
So here's hoping.
Absolutely. All right. Well, here's hoping. And until then, cheers.
Cheers.